So what's John?
Yes.
What's EO doing?
We're
Didn't say anything.
we're surveying everybody. You know, that's typically
Yep. Matt?
Got it.
Down the aisle? Good? Not sure if you're
I thought you said denial. You said down the aisle. I'm like, denial?
Okay, the time is 4 o'clock. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'd like to call this special meeting, February 24th, to order. Our first item on the agenda is the discussion of mask mandates, where we're going...
It's not on.
No, it's not on the agenda.
We can do the pledge. I would like that. Okay, let's please all rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It'd be a little strange to start without it. All right, we're going to hear a presentation from Mr. Gonzalez. This week could all direct our attention. Welcome, Mr. G.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. So I'll jump right into it. So we're going to move into what I think everybody knows, that on February 28th, the determination on whether to require masks in schools will be made at the local level. I did want to highlight that the Commissioner of the Department of Public Health does have the authority to reinstate a mask requirement, but in all of the meetings that we've had, has reiterated that that would only be dependent on a real dramatic spike in hospitalizations. And she has said that she does not see that happening anytime in the near future. That data is trending downward, and she thinks it will continue to go that way in the near future. So this is just a survey from the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents. It has 124 responses, and the superintendents that replied had indicated, based on information that they had within their own districts, that they have the belief that 112 of them will make masks optional on the 28th. Just as a point of clarification for the board as well, the 28th at 12:01 is the time, not March 1st.
12:01 in the morning?
In the morning, Maureen, so you will be up early. I also do have a survey here from the Lebanon Education Association. Roughly 45% would like to see the mask mandate go away effective the 28th. We do have 27% or 28% that'd like to see it through April vacation, and another 27.5% who would like to see it for the remainder of the school year. This is our current data. I try to update this dashboard every Friday, as I'm sending out my weekly updates to the Board of Education, but I did it for today's meeting specifically. So we have one case at the high school and one at the middle school. This has been pretty much the case for the past 3 weeks, where we've had 1 to 2 cases, many days with 0. I know that many people in the audience probably appreciate the lack of emails. I did not send one today. We're definitely moving in the right direction with our data, and probably in the best place that we've been since November, or even earlier than that. We have 0 staff members who are out isolating because of positive cases, and we only have 1 family potential spread that they are quarantining, but that wasn't even a requirement of ours. You can see the cumulative numbers there. We've had hundreds of kids and upwards of 50 staff members who have had bouts with COVID. We can thankfully say that they are, back and doing well. So this is the most current data as of this morning. This is some town data regarding vaccination rates. This came from Patrick McCormick at Uncas Health. He gave this to me as of today. You'll see here that is reflective of the 17th, but he emailed this to me today. So that must mean there's not much change. So in the town of Lebanon, we have roughly 71% that are fully vaccinated. Specifically between the ages of 12 and 17, that number is 52%. And then with our youngest students, that number is only 25%. and, just being thoughtful and remembering as the vaccination rolled out, there were different availability and timeline for when adults versus 12 to 17 versus 5 to 11 could get the vaccination. These are the new COVID cases, reflective the weeks between February 6th to February 19th. I know it's a little hard to see, but if you look down the fourth line there, the fourth row is Lebanon. And in the past 2 weeks in the town, which tests have been reported to Uncas Health. I think that's important to note that not every positive case is reported to Uncas Health, but the ones that have been reported to Uncas Health, we had 14 positive cases for a percentage positive rate for those who have been tested of 5.7. When you look at some of the surrounding towns, there are some that are much higher, but we are on the lower end of this data table as well. So then that gets us to this new approach to COVID-19 management. So as I've shared with you frequently, I go to the State Department of Education and Department of Public Health meetings whenever they're offered. And then there have been additional meetings with superintendents only. And in those meetings, they've spent a lot of time emphasizing this new approach, really moving more to focusing on the possibility for outbreaks and significant increases in how you would respond to that, but also just the more typical management of COVID-19. And all that they've been giving are recommendations versus earlier on in this pandemic, there was a lot of requirements. So the Department of Public Health is giving recommendations that they consider to be best practice. They're asking us to consult with and have conversations with our local health department, Uncas Health, which we have been doing, and then make our plans from there. So for example, these are some routine strategies that they are recommending. They are still stating that vaccination for eligible students and staff and booster vaccines, when appropriate, are a great mitigation strategy. They are supporting those who continue to wear a mask, following the isolation guidelines. So a little bit later in the presentation, you'll see, regardless of the decision, we are still continuing to follow the latest CDC guidelines for isolation, where if there's an infected student or staff member, they are out for 5 days. With improving symptoms, they can return on day 6, but have to mask from day 6 through 10. We do have a nice stock of self-test kits that we also offer to families and students who have been in close contact or who are symptomatic. That is something else that they're suggesting later in the presentation as well. I'll talk to you about phase 3 of the test kit distribution that has been provided by the state. We are still reporting identified cases to Uncas Health. I do that the day that I receive them from the school nurses, still reporting to the community, in our chart, so that they know what grade level or even what class at the elementary has been impacted, and they can monitor their child's health. Strategies that they're saying would not be included is the individual case investigation, contact tracing. We have given that up, a month or more ago, based on their original guidance that was not proving to be an effective or feasible strategy to carry out in the schools. And we have shortened the quarantine period based on CDC guidance. So I have made some changes to the continuity of service plan that are not affected by any decision that the board will make. Student and staff vaccinations are encouraged but not required. So the state went away from the required vaccination for employees. So employees are no longer required to do weekly testing as well. Staff and students, we are asking them to stay home when there are symptoms that are consistent with COVID-19 or that they've been in close contact. I just talked to you about the isolation or quarantine guidance. We are encouraging testing for people that have symptoms, and we are providing those, or at least offering if families would like them. One thing that has been a little bit confusing, I've had some nice correspondence with community members, that any decision that the board engages in today does not impact masks on buses. That is a federal piece of guidance that we cannot change, and that is in place and will not be revisited until mid-March. So, just a piece for the board to have in their mind as we're having discussions and deliberations about this, that masking on buses will continue. And that's for all public conveyances in our country. As I just alluded to, here is the masking on buses specific legislation here in the summary provided down below, and it's to be reevaluated on March 18th. Phase 3 test kit distribution, obviously things are happening at a very rapid pace. There, we have grown to be able to be adaptable and agile, but this one has moved really quick. The state is trying to give out test kits to all districts to be able to give them to families in anticipation of boards making decisions on the 28th. So our test kit distribution pickup date was tomorrow. So that would have been a hard set of circumstances to maneuver anyway, to pick them up, get them here, get them into classrooms, communicate to families that they're available, ask if they'd like them to go home with their child or if they want it to be picked up, if not. So logistically it would have been hard anyway. But now, because of the impending snowstorm, they have moved our test kit pickup till March 2nd, which would be after a possible decision by the Board of Education. So I have a backup plan that I haven't yet communicated out because I wanted to see where this meeting potentially went. We do have enough in inventory to be able to offer to all staff and students as another layer of comfort. If a decision is made to go away from masks, families could test to make sure that their child is not positive before coming back to school, and that would be one of those kind of drive-through pickup scenarios that I could try to arrange on the weekend. So that is all the data that I have at this point, summarized to the best of my ability. I don't know if the board has specific questions about the presentation, or if Sarah, you'd like to take it back over and lead the discussion.
Sure. So, the first thing I want to just say is that I'm thrilled with the amount of communication the board has received, both, and let me just be honest, both for moving to mask optional, which is the clear majority, versus please keep masks on for a few more weeks. I'm thrilled with all of the input that the community has put forward, because that means you care. And I think that the town, this town has cared. As long as I've been in this town, we bring subjects up that we care about, we communicate them respectfully to the people who need to be communicated with. So I truly, truly, truly appreciate that. And I also hope that we continue to get the community input on other issues as well. Go ahead.
If I could just add to that, Sarah, specifically around the respectful communication, just in this short week since knowing that this conversation would be happening, I have a stack of 50 emails, 47 of which are in favor of removing the mask on February 28th, and 3 that would like it to continue in some form or fashion, either until April break or the remainder of the year.
Thank you for clarifying that, and I would concur with that as well. I'm sure the rest of the board would as well. I would like to, at this point, go around the table, if the board is comfortable, and talk about how you're feeling. I also would like to know if Mr. Gonzalez, if you have a recommendation for the board at this point for us to move forward on February 28th.
Yeah, so I think given the data that we have over the past month, given the recommendations from the Department of Public Health, the direction of the State Department of Education, the feedback from not only families, students, and staff to some degree, I would recommend that on the 28th we remove the mask requirement.
Great. Would anybody like to begin on their thoughts as a board? Matt, go ahead.
I'm happy to say that I agree with Amy 100%. I think the masks should be removed as soon as possible for my children so they can get back to more sense of normalcy, and especially the impact it's had on the younger children on so many levels.
Thanks, Matt. Nicole?
I agree, echo everything he said.
Thank you.
I agree just as well. There's kids in first and second grade who haven't seen their teachers' faces yet.
Alexis?
I'm in favor of mask choice.
Thank you.
I concur.
Dana?
Same.
Dawn?
Same.
If I could just add on to that, though, while I appreciate your support in that recommendation, that I do feel we're going to have to be very thoughtful with this transition. You know, I think that our youngest learners, as you said, have not experienced anything but masks. So there's going to be developmentally appropriate conversations. There will be developmentally appropriate steps to get them back to that normalcy. There are other things that we had been using as mitigation measures that we will continue as much as we can and really phase back into what we hope to be a very smooth transition. And there are other things that will probably go away that would not be necessary anymore. But, you know, I think one thing that I would share with the board and, you know, the community, it will be a shared responsibility to try to keep our schools as healthy and as safe as they can. And that will be, you know, trying to follow the things that are in this continuity of service plan that needs to be updated and got out to the families as soon as possible based on the direction of this meeting. But you know, while I would be happy to give choice and to support choice, I also know that there are many who have some trepidation, that are, you know, a little bit anxious about this time. And you know, I'm confident, knowing this community and knowing especially our teachers and our learners, that we'll handle this transition with kindness and with grace and with respect for everyone's choice.
Go ahead, Dana.
I just have a quick comment, concern for the teachers. Concern was expressed of how are they going to police the kids who are told by their parents to wear a mask, and then they come to school and they're not wearing it. Are those teachers informed of who's supposed to be keeping them on or who's not? And just a concern that I have for them.
Yeah, no,
dealing with it.
Thank you for bringing that up. I do not feel it's the responsibility of our teachers to maintain any type of list or log to add to their extremely long list of responsibilities, to be checking who should have one and who shouldn't have one. I think the community has spoken loud and clear that this is a choice that they want to have. So I think now the choice is in their hands, and we would hope that along with that choice comes a very appropriate conversation with their learner and about what the family expectations are. That doesn't mean that there will never be a gentle reminder if a teacher can do so, but to expect that, you know, a teacher or a bus driver or any staff member is, you know, being able to maintain some type of mental record of who should and who shouldn't have one on and be able to make all of those reminders, I don't think that would be fair to add on to the teacher's plate.
Oh, I have a question.
Nicole?
Lebanon Kids is also going to be mask optional as well?
Well, Lebanon Kids is not a public schools entity. That's a private, that is a private being.
So that's up to Lebanon Kids to
Separate.
decide?
Yep. I don't know what guidance they have to follow, but I know it's not the same.
Okay.
I don't know if they, I really don't know. But we don't have say over what they can and cannot do. One other thing I wanted to just say, you know, is being mask optional, like you just said, Andy, you alluded to it, is the right thing to do at this point, in my opinion. But what I do also just want to address is, the supports that are there for students in this transition. If a family decides to continue wearing their mask, just that we remember and remind to teach compassion and to just to be aware that every family is different and they are within their rights to make their own decisions. That when they come to school, if a student chooses to wear, a family chooses for the student to wear a mask, that we are just reminding our friends and our students to be respectful of that. And for the staff right now as well. So it's just one thing I'm hoping, I'm sure the admin team has that on their radar, and has a plan for that. The other thing I want to say is I do apologize that this meeting is literally like the next day, potentially, if we don't have school tomorrow. The next day, we're moving into this transition. I mean, this is fast. It's not ideal for sure. And I also wanted to address the hard work that Andy, again, we all alluded to, of the admin team, the teachers, the paraprofessionals, the custodians, everybody that has worked double, triple, quadruple, the amount of hours that the Board of Ed is researching and listening and reading emails. Just, there's a lot that goes into all of these decisions that we've made as far as the reopening plan. I mean, way back when, there were 50 people on that reopening committee. So a lot of work has been done. And philosophically, if you agree or you do not agree, the intent has been good. The intent has not been ill. So I just want to reiterate that and to thank everybody for their work. It's looking like we're moving in the right direction, so we're happy to be here. We're happy we're in this place, and thank you very much.
Yeah, so just for clarification, I guess, not only for myself, for direction, but maybe for those that are listening or in the audience. So I will plan to send out draft, fine-tune a communication to families as soon as possible so that everyone is well aware of the support of the Board of Education to move to a mask welcome but not required environment effective Monday. Okay?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Anything else on that? Okay. Moving right along. That would be great. That would be great. All right, item number 3 on our agenda is the discussion, presentation, and act on the 2022-23 budget. This is important too, please help.
All right, ready to transition to an equally important topic?
Yes.
All right. So I'm happy and proud to be able to put before you our final superintendent budget recommendation and presentation, highlighted by our mission. Here in Lebanon, we work in partnership with families and community, as you can see, to prepare our students to be contributing members of a diverse society and provide that safe, nurturing, and rigorous learning environment. I wanted to point this out, though, because I think there can't be any type of presentation or gathering or discussion without highlighting that this is the 3rd consecutive year being impacted by the pandemic. And I am so proud of our staff, our students, and our families for personifying perseverance, for not allowing this to put a damper on our pride, and to being continually committed to pursuing excellence. I hope you've been around. I know that visitors haven't been all that welcomed in our buildings the same way that they once were, but our staff has shirts that have this kind of motto on them. Perseverance, pride, and pursuit of excellence. And I'm so proud to be a part of a community that really exemplifies those terms. So in this presentation, I have a long list of a table of contents here. I'm going to move quickly for our board, but I look forward to going over this in greater detail with the Board of Finance. But what we tried to do, even while creating this presentation, is always start with our mission and our goals. And one of our goals as a Board of Education is to prepare a fiscally responsible budget while balancing objectives and needs of our community, which is not easy. You'll see later in the presentation, there was a lot of suggestions and requests for new initiatives and new programs, and we had to make some difficult choices as to what we were planning to keep in this final recommendation. Springboarding off of our Board of Education goals specific to this budget presentation goals, we wanted to enhance current staffing levels, and we wanted to create new pathways for our learners, and in doing so, develop a more comprehensive and diverse set of offerings to our students. And there's going to be a slide specifically that highlights the pathways, and another slide that highlights the staffing that we're looking to enhance. But this one really rings true to me, I think. Over the years in Lebanon, everyone that's a part of this learning community, either past or present, has worked really hard to give our learners the best possible education. So, I want to honor all of those efforts, but I feel that this presentation and that this recommendation really believes in the future. I think that, we work hard to grow our learners, cultivate them as leaders, and then help them create their own legacies, but you need a robust budget to do that. And as I'll show you moving forward, I'm not going to go into all of the portrait of the graduate stuff with you or the strategic plan, because you know exactly where those are. But as I'm talking about a robust budget, you look at the numbers that we've proposed as a Board of Education, nothing above a 224. That's basically just flipping the book, keeping the same staff and keeping the same programming. And then you see what's historically been approved, nothing above a 2. So, our 4-year average of percent increase recommended by us is 1.92 and approved is 1.22. We're being bold here in making a recommendation of 3.92 to bring forward to the Board of Finance. And while that number is higher than what it's been in the past, I feel it's truly needed to create those legacies and to cultivate those leaders and to grow our learners. We can't just keep what we've always had. We need to develop as a district. We need to grow as a district to continue to offer the programs and to provide the enhancements that we're looking forward to. Now, this slide is something that shows up in every presentation by every superintendent, but it is something to be reminded of. In our proposed budget, over 90% are contractual or fixed costs. So we're really dealing with a small sliver of our larger budget that we have the ability really to request more of or to cut from, unless we're looking to get into specific positions or programs that we want to cut out. Now to the more exciting stuff, I think, in the presentation is the pathways and the enhancements. So one of the things that I'm proud of the Board of Education for doing is creating a specific subcommittee around enrollment. And in those enrollment meetings, we've noticed that a lot of our Lebanon learners are opting to attend technical schools. So part of our focus in this budget recommendation is to develop pathways or possible career and college opportunities here in our own district, so they don't need to look elsewhere for those options. This quote stood out to me, reading this article regarding work-based relevancy. It says, either you're evolving or you're in the process of going backward. Now, I don't want to scroll back to the percentages there, but if we're passing 1.2% on average budgets, which is really just flipping the books over, are we evolving? or we're just keeping things as they've always been? And if we're doing that, are we actually in the process of going backward? So talked earlier about the new initiatives that were brought up by our administration, brought up by teachers, or public community members that had shared. So this is a chart that highlights all of the positions or programs that were brought to our attention and what their potential impact on the budget would have been. So all of those added up to, just by themselves, a 2.7% increase. While we would have loved to move every one of those forward, going back to our goals and wanting to prepare a fiscally responsible budget, we knew that that wasn't in the best interest of our recommendation. So what we did decide to add to this presentation was a turf management course at the high school, which would be accompanied with a staff member to teach that. That staff member would not only be responsible for the turf management course, which would have a lot of hands-on experiential learning for our students, but that staff member would also work within the middle school and elementary school to try to grow our VOAG opportunities for our elementary and middle school students, so that their first experience into our ag program is not at the high school. We can start to build those connections with this great program that we offer at the younger levels. We are also excited to try to introduce a drone pilot course, which the curriculum and materials are part of this recommendation. We are trying to adapt our curriculum and our offerings to what kids are interested in and what are hot in the field, in the career field. We're also looking to partner with Three Rivers to have a nursing instructor to try to provide a springboard for students who might be interested to go into that as a career option. This Lyman Support Interventionist is someone who's currently funded through grants that we would be moving into the operating budget. We found this to be a very beneficial position, somebody that has been helping students who need extra support, making sure that they're on track within their classes and that they're making good progress. The next bullets for our occupational therapists, our physical therapists, and our speech and language pathologists are all related to the specific IEP requirements that students have within the special education department. And then there was feedback given from staff and community members that we really need to try to address the support for our secretarial staff, specifically at the elementary school. So we are looking to make that position a full-time 10-month position. So with those positions that I just highlighted, that alone has a 1.6% budget impact. So as I talked about being bold and moving forward with a 3.92, 1.6 of that increase by itself is these new initiatives. These things are not related necessarily to what we're asking for in the budget, but they're exciting, and I think the Board of Finance, when we have our opportunity to present to them, should hear about this. Our course offerings are already growing. We have our African American and Hispanic Studies. We have weight training courses. We have a new calculus section added. We have careers in sports management, environmental science, aquaculture. We have revamped our special ed courses, trying to get more academic skills that focus on reading, writing, and math. We've added additional math labs here at the high school. We've increased our college university credit earning classes, which leads right into this celebratory slide. We are among the top 10 high schools for the highest percent of enrollment within the UConn Early College Experience Program. We're actually number 3 in the entire state. So we're doing some great things to provide our high school students with opportunities to get credit for their future, whether that is college or career. We're also utilizing grant funding to expand and enhance our program at no cost to the district. That would help with purchasing equipment for the new landscape course, renovating the greenhouse, new tractors, trailers for the sheep, fish tanks, all things that are utilizing grant funds. We're also able to use the Perkins grant specifically to get equipment for the CNA course. fridge and freezer for the family consumer science, paying for substitutes for our technology teachers. So these are things we're already doing. So we are trying to not only highlight the great things that are happening in our schools, but also letting you know and letting the Board of Finance know how resourceful we are being. Our virtual high school courses, we've added 30 seats at no additional cost. Students are now able to take things like American Sign Language, video game design, advanced placement psychology. And our Lyman team has worked really hard to revamp our senior project with additional pathways even in that, moving it to a full credit and incorporating our portrait of the graduate, which I glazed over at the beginning because you were all a part in that development. Here's our current district profile. We have 111 certified staff, 192 total staff, 7 administrators, and 357 students at the elementary school, 272 at the middle school, and 321 at Lyman. I asked our administrators to contribute here with school successes because there's so many great things already happening in our schools. Specifically, LES is proud of the community engagement that they've had even during these very challenging circumstances. They had 85% participation at the October conferences. They've been offering in-person PTA events with layered mitigation strategies. Nothing's been able to get in the way of that type of fun and that type of participation. They've worked hard as a team to have a scientifically research-based interventions day, which has done a great job in reducing the number of students who are being referred to special education or to the student support team. At the middle school, they've totally redesigned their multi-tiered system for supports, which has really helped students make growth, and they're being thoughtful about targeting the iReady data, which is a platform that gives us diagnostic information about the students at different points during the year, and really tailoring the lessons to those students using those programs. We're also piloting several programs for math across the district. Lyman has a long list here of things that they've done. We point out here, obviously, the success of our volleyball team and our other sports, the drama productions, the band and chorus concerts, the work that was done over the summer to redesign curriculum, even as far as to include on here the new student orientation and cookout way back in August. Enrollment, this is something that always comes up. So here is our historic enrollment as it was projected by NESDEC. So we get these projections every year. So this year they were projecting us to have 958 kids in district. We're actually at 969. What we have talked about in our enhancements and pathways, I think, is highlighted here. If you look all the way to the left-hand column to the 21-22 year, you can see that at Norwich Tech and Windham Tech alone, we have 67 students who were once a part of our Lebanon public schools who are in those tech schools. Now, it would be naive of me to think and to try to project to all of you that just by having a drone pilot course or by having a turf management course or by offering a nursing option here, that all 67 kids are going to come back. But I would hope that as we're moving and transitioning our learners throughout the district, that as the families see and as the students see that we're trying to create the most comprehensive set of offerings that we possibly can, and that we have seen why some of our students are leaving, and taking that into account to build this budget, that number will go down over the next few years. Here is actually kids that are out of town students that now attend Lyman. So that has stayed pretty consistent over the years. So we do have a lot of students that are out of town that come to be a part of our ASTI program, or students that just come to be a part of a regular education student that's not part of our VOAG. So we have 64 total students that are from out of town. Now, that kind of, you could say, offsets here where we have 67 kids going out, but just imagine if we could offer these kids who are choosing to go to technical school more options and keep them here, plus continue to work really hard to recruit and retain kids from other districts, our enrollment should go up. Again, going back to the efforts of the Board of Education specifically to develop a enrollment subcommittee. In that subcommittee, we've been working really hard to expand and add to programming, as you see reflected in the enhancements proposed here. We've been working to market our district. Lyman not only has a general ed kind of video, we also have a video specific to the ag program. We've been working to revamp our website across the district. We've had numerous schools visit our district to see firsthand what our programs can offer, and we actually have been visiting other districts. We actually have a presentation on Monday this coming week at Lisbon Central School, who had not been a partner of sending students to Lyman before. We're going out. We're trying to be active and to increase our reach to these surrounding districts. We've had students even have the opportunity that go to other middle schools playing soccer games on our soccer fields. We're looking to see if maybe we can invite them to have baseball or softball games. We're trying to do anything and everything we can to show people the great things that are happening in Lyman and invite them in. Kind of have to take an aside really quick to just say, if you haven't seen, they are digging at the baseball fields and getting ready to put in that retaining wall and hopefully bleachers to come soon. We have also been developing exit surveys to give to students and staff as they choose to leave, to have a better understanding of what was it that drew them to those other districts, and then use that data to be able to bring back to these type of presentations to grow what we're doing within our own district. We are looking and doing research and planning to possibly invest in a full-day preschool. That is a very big project. That's not going to happen overnight. That more than likely won't happen next year or maybe even the year after. But again, it shows the efforts that we're making to try to keep our enrollment and grow our enrollment. We've also had conversations in the special education department specifically about creating a transition academy for students that have aged out in terms of their experience here at Lyman, but that we still provide services to. Instead of sending them out to other districts or towns, try to create something here and considering how do we further grow our scales program. These slides are probably the ones that, pull on my heartstrings a little bit and are probably the most meaningful. While we're concerned about enrollment and possibly, the decline over the years or, the flatlining over the past couple of years, these students are here. I think we spend so much time talking about students that have chosen to leave the district or families that have moved away. But these students are here, and they're proud to be a part of Lebanon Public Schools, and they deserve the best possible education. These students are here, and their hearts and minds are no less important than in years past. These students are here, and they're this town's future. So I feel that while we're being bold with our projection and our recommendation, I think it's well-deserved. Here again is the projected enrollment from NSDAC. As you saw in a previous slide when I showed you historical enrollment, it's not 100% spot on, but it does get us in the ballpark, and they're projecting increases over the next 5 years. So that's something else that we should be mindful of as we're developing these budget recommendations. Class size is something that comes up often. We are fortunate in Lebanon to have smaller class sizes than in some other districts. But that's a Board of Ed philosophy, that reasonable class size must be maintained to provide a quality education. And more than that, when I had the opportunity to be lucky enough to interview for this position, throughout the superintendent's strategic profile of what the community was looking for, there was this term thrown around all the time. We're a close-knit community. We're a close-knit town. Well, that extends into our classrooms. If we want to have that close-knit feel, we need to maintain smaller class sizes. That allows us to develop community and relationship within those classrooms. With everything that the students need in terms of social emotional growth, smaller class sizes helps to be able to give them exactly what they need. And as we've referenced the changes and enhancements with the multi-tiered system of supports at the middle and high school, this allows us to provide more specific, targeted interventions to students when we have smaller class size. Here are our current class sizes and the number of sections that go along with this year's budget. Obviously, that will some of that will shift depending on enrollment as we move forward into next year. But it's just a good snapshot. While we are saying we have smaller class sizes, a class of 20 in third grade, it's still hard to manage. There's still a lot that goes into working with 20 third graders. And even if you wanted to look across and say seventh grade, there's a spread between 15 and that's still a lot of kids. Each and every one that is extremely valuable and deserves our utmost attention each and every day. Special education services. I'm glad that in this article it used the word tricky, because managing special education can be tricky. According to state data, the total number of students in special education from 2011 to 2021 has increased by 16,000 across the state. And we've seen an increase here in Lebanon. The percentage of students who are in need of special education, just going to percentage, from 11.6 of the student population to almost 16% in that same time period. Expenditures statewide, again, they're also trending upward. Outplacements statewide, trending upward. Here's some specific data to Lebanon with the number of students on IEPs. These are based off of an October 1st number, because that is when we report to the state. Specifically, the number of IEPs managed by the Lebanon Public School staff. And just to give you an idea as a board, the average cost of an outplacement tuition is roughly $75,000 per student. You add on to that, the average cost of outplacement transportation is another roughly $22,000, so we're almost talking about $100,000 for every student that requires outplacement supports and transportation. We do have 16 students, or 22 if you couple the two programs, that are benefiting from our scales or ABA offerings. And in that, there's a potential savings to our district that we're realizing this year of $1.6 million. Transportation is close to another $500,000. Here are those numbers put into a graph for you. So the blue is what we are currently having to pay to operate these programs in district versus what it would cost to provide those same types of services out of district. And then here is an analysis of that same data just with per pupil cost. So this is just some information that highlights again that across the state, per pupil expenditures have gone up. But more importantly, here is a list of districts that are comparable to Lebanon in that their enrollment is similar, or that their structure of one elementary, one middle, one high school is similar, or they're just geographically close to us. It's hard to find that number of districts that are exactly aligned to us, but we're right in the middle. That is 2018-2019 data, 2019-2020 data, again, right in the middle in terms of per pupil expenditures. Again, this is just some statewide trends and data to show that the increase has gone up, letting you know that, let's say in Danbury, it's around $12,000 per student, all the way to some in Sharon where they're spending almost $42,000 per student. Val, I don't know if you want to scoot over to possibly chat a little bit about revenue. Being able to put together all of the revenue numbers, the tuition numbers, the final grant numbers, that is something that develops over time and might even look a little bit different by the time we go to the Board of Finance. Might definitely look different by the time that this budget is officially voted on. But right now, the ECS funding is flat, which would put it at $4.5 million roughly. Here's what it's looked like historically. So you can see here in Lebanon, the amount of ECS funding that we've got over the years has declined. So we've been lucky in that it stayed flat since the pandemic, and we're hoping that that trend continues. These are all the grants that the district benefits from and the revenue that's generated from them. These figures are yet to come. Val, I don't know if there's a better explanation you could provide as to how this gets calculated.
It's based on enrollment, and I know the board had just approved the new tuition rates recently, so I do my best to try to make those numbers final. It's kind of sometimes the last step of the process to base it on graduating each student and enrollment. So those numbers are soon to come and need to be due to the town by next week, so we'll have those numbers shortly.
Great. You have seen and been a part of the capital account request, so, we were not going to spend time there. That will be something, again, that's highlighted at the Board of Finance. But just now into the budget input, so this started way back in the beginning of October with building level conversations, teachers working hard to submit their classroom and grade level budgets to their principal. The principals then met as a leadership team to share their requests, added to that whatever they felt was necessary. Val and I looked over those budget books, sent those budget books back to the principals, had them make further recommendations or cuts. Then we brought that initial proposal and thoughts to the staff and community input sessions. We added on to that based on the feedback we got there, and then we brought those to the Board of Education. Finance Subcommittee had deliberations. All of that went into building what we have for a proposal today. Major themes from those budget forums: maintaining staffing levels. We've actually worked to enhance them. Supporting small class sizes by enhancing our staffing levels. Not only are we going to be able to offer more programs, but we are also going to be able to maintain those small class sizes. We did include moving the elementary school secretary to full-time for 10 months. There is a contractual increase for the nurses' salaries, but an additional to that to try to make them more competitive. We did not include the physical education position or an additional special education position. Those were a couple of those tough decisions that did not make the final proposal. So here we are again. This year we're operating under a $20 million budget. The proposed budget that I'm sharing with you today is $20,784,194. The increase of $784,194 or 3.92%. Val and I have done an analysis, more Val than me, but I think it's good for community members to kind of have an understanding that a $720,000 increase roughly is $1 million. So if you have a home that's assessed at $250,000, the current annual tax amount base rate is roughly $7,100. Adding $1 million to that would increase the taxes to $7,350 per year, which is $20 roughly per month, or 69 cents per day. And if we go back to those pictures of our lovely students, and here's another one, as superintendent, I feel strongly that each and every one of these learners is worth 69 cents a day to provide the best possible education that we can here in Lebanon. And just a thank you to the teachers, the community members, the principals that are in the room, and obviously to the Board of Education. It's a collaborative process to build a fiscally responsible budget, and it's definitely, I think, a shared responsibility to give the best education possible to our learners. And just a thank you to you for your support in the pursuit of excellence for every child in our school. This is actually something that I presented when I was making my pitch to be your superintendent. And it just reminds you of all of the great things that our learners do after they're here. So this is a scrolling list of students who recently graduated from Lyman, where they are, what they're studying, or what their career is. Because, not only do we have to build those foundational steps at the elementary school and then grow them as leaders in the middle school and help them create legacies here at Lyman, it's our job really to set them up for success when they get out. And I think we're doing a very good job of that, but with this robust budget proposal that we've put together, I think this takes it to another level.
Well, thank you very much, Andy. That was clear, robust, efficient. So now it is time for us to do some discussion on the topic. Would we like to make a motion, and then we can go into discussion?
I make a motion to approve the 3.9% budget that Andy presented for the 2022-2023 school year.
Motion by Nicole,
I'll second.
second by John. Any discussion? Now we're going to have some opportunity for discussion on the budget as presented. Questions, comments?
I think robust is a very good word. 3.92% is a number, but, I'm a big believer that we had a administrative team who worked very hard on this, including the whole staff, and then went to our finance subcommittee, Met subcommittee, and this is the number they came up with. I have to support it, so.
Thanks, John. Now, did you want to make any comments?
Well, I'm very concerned in one portion of the budget, and that's the budget that concerns utilities and the buildings part. When I was going through the budget several times, it seemed in that particular area that there was not enough money allotted for what the true expenses probably will be for this next year coming forward, and I just think that was way under budgeted on a lot of steps, and that's my biggest concern there, is that's not a good number.
You think it needs to be higher?
It needs to be much higher.
Any other thoughts on that? Go ahead, Danelle.
A different question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
On page 23, under athletics, I'm confused by the math. I think there's an error there. When you read across, the numbers for 22 to 23 are supposed to add up to the column that's 22, 23, and they don't add up.
Can you start again?
Sure.
Just finding that.
Page 23, the 2022-23 budget for the three schools, if you add them across, it's supposed to add up to what is going vertically, and they don't add up.
A specific line or the bottom line?
Materials and services.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The whole section doesn't add up, so I think the percent would be higher for athletics.
Oh, right, so the numbers in the middle were the original request, and then the numbers on the proposed was what, Andy, we had discussed as proposed. So for right now, the block in the middle is the request, and then that last line, Andy, are the items that we had talked about as proposed by the superintendent. So I suppose we could focus on the proposed section versus the request dollar amounts in the middle.
Okay. So the 5.6% is on what's actually being proposed?
Right,
Okay.
right, as opposed to the requested amounts in the middle.
Okay, thanks.
And that was reflective of our conversation regarding budgeting for every possible contest, transportation, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Maureen.
I have comments.
Go ahead.
I know that we have put together a robust budget here, and there's lots of things that we'd like to have, but I'm not sure that the town is going to like 3.92. I don't particularly like it either, especially with inflation going up and everything. There's things that I bought last week they're almost double this week, which is crazy. But I don't know what to cut, where to cut. I mean, like Matt says, we know that gas and oil goes up and electricity goes up, and 3.92 is a little high.
I agree with you, Maureen. However, like you said, we're all seeing these increases, right, at the gas pump, at the grocery store, everywhere that we're going. The school's no different.
That's true.
The school still has to pay contractual, according to contract. The school is still going to be increasing their fuel. Everything that they buy, like paper, whatever it is all increasing. So I think we just need to be mindful of that. And while we want to be sensitive to the taxpayers, for sure, we're all taxpayers, right? We want to be sensitive. But at the same time, we do have to be understanding of the fact that the school is going to be facing the same challenges. Go ahead.
And if I could respectfully, I think in my role, it is really hard to balance what's fiscally responsible versus what our teachers, what our students, what our families deserve for their child's education. And while 3.96 may be higher than what has been proposed in the past, I would argue on the flip side that 1.22 over 4 years was not enough for our learners.
Agreed.
I'm on the subcommittee, so all of my questions and comments were taken there.
Awesome, thanks, Tom.
Yeah, another quick question. Matt mentioned the utilities, and I think, Nicole, you might have mentioned this before. We have new lighting here, yet our budget numbers are higher than before. So I'm wondering where the cost savings was supposed to be put or had somewhere.
So the new lighting is projected to save us about $500 a month, but what we can't control is delivery from Eversource. So I have an energy consultant I work with to help me build budgets, and while we saved money with our supply from them, we were able to lock in rates with the town for supply. The driving force was the delivery rates from Eversource. So the savings of the 2% for supply is shown here with the increase of delivery of possibly 4%. So that's why we went up 2%. In conjunction with that is a savings of about $500 a month across the buildings on the new lighting projects with the loans included.
Is it on this topic, Matt?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So what happens is we, how many years are we paying out on the loans? Do you know?
5 years?
5 years?
Yeah.
So for 5 years, we're still paying for the lights, so we don't really save money till we pay for the lights. After 5 years, then that's when you truly will see the actual cost of what the electricity will be.
And is it also safe to say that if we hadn't gone with this upgrade, then we could have seen a potentially larger increase because of the delivery?
Right, because of usage, because the
Deliveries.
efficient lights use more. Right, so I think over time, it definitely wasn't an immediate savings. It was a $500 a month immediate savings for sure. But over time, we'll definitely start to see those savings.
Because the delivery is tied to the cost of what's delivered.
Right.
And usage, right? And so we do continue to work with energy consultants to make sure at least our supply is reasonable, and we can control that cost by choosing appropriate consultants.
Any questions on this?
No questions?
Nicole? Matt? Bruce? No questions, comments? Okay, there was a motion on the floor to approve the 3.92% increase of 2022 to 23 budget as presented as a 3.92% increase. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, ready, Maureen?
Oh, I got it.
That was Bruce, Nicole, Sarah, Alexis, John, Danelle, and Dawn, and Maureen, if...
I didn't put my hand up.
Okay. All those opposed? Matt and Maureen. All those abstaining, no abstentions, that motion passes. Thank you very much, and thank you for all of your hard work. Val and Andy, both of you, did a fantastic job. Thank you. Thank you. Yep.
Does it still seem like March 3rd is the day?
March 10th.
10th, thank you.
7 o'clock.
Which is the same day as the music celebration at the high school.
Via Zoom as well.
Our meeting is via Zoom? Okay.
It is the same day as the presentation here.
Here. Supporting my children.
Thank you. All right. Item number 4, act on CABE membership. This, I suppose, I will just say a brief comment and then they can make a motion. CABE is an organization that could potentially provide legal support. They do, however, have policies and recommended practices. It's also a consortium of boards of education, a nonpartisan consortium. So I would like to, at least for 1 year, try it out, see what kind of legal support can be offered. Again, it is up to us as a Board of Education whether or not we adopt any policy, whether it be from Shipman and Goodwin, CABE, whatever it may be. It's up to us. Just because we join a membership doesn't mean we have to follow and adopt every single policy or recommended practice. Okay, that's just what I wanted, my viewpoint on it. Probably should have said that in discussion, huh? Sorry about that. Anyway, is there a motion on the floor?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we apply, or I don't know what the word that we contract with CABE for 1 year membership for the upcoming school year.
Thanks, John.
I'll second.
Thank you, Alexis. Motion by John, seconded by Alexis. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Nicole.
What is the amount again?
Oh, I knew you were going to.
I believe it's 2,700.
That sounds about right.
It was in the approximate. I don't know if anybody wrote that down. I can look it up in a second. $2,775. Thank you. You're welcome.
Where would the funding come from for this?
We have, there's a line.
Board of Ed.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what we budgeted for that. You guys can continue discussion.
Any other questions or thoughts on that? Go ahead, Maureen.
Oh, that $2,775 does not include the money for the these services, fee services, core policy regulation, bylaw manual for $100, annual update $350, policy audit service $1,800 to $3,000, etc. So that would just be if we didn't ask for anything else.
Those are optional.
Right.
Optional services. Again, my thought was that we would have it would be a resource for the board, just a resource. Bruce?
You mentioned that CABE was nonpartisan. From what I've been reading and researching, it is partisan.
How so?
They support critical race theory and DEI, and they are not outwardly disclosing that, but they're keeping that under, they've embedded the principles of these two things in every part of their program. And I don't think we should be a part of any organization that supports these ideologies.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I've done similar research, and I don't see any CRT or DI. I've done some significant, I also want to remind us that there's a lot of arms to this CABE, and we've used one in the recent past. And I think the result was okay. And if it isn't, and if they fooled us, then we're in big trouble. Yeah, because I mean, and we use them to do our superintendent search.
There was no political motivation there. I mean, I guess I'm speaking from my own personal experience, but I didn't feel swayed in any sense of the word. And again, we are a Board of Ed that gets to determine what policies we follow, what procedures we follow. I'm going to leave it at that. Go ahead, Nicole.
You also have to give some credit to the teachers and administrators in any school board. Like, I'm a teacher, and no one in their right mind would teach that. So, I mean, like, yes, CABE, if you think that they're going to support that, they don't have a leg to stand on because we make the decisions in the end. Teachers are the ones that teach in the end. And no teacher is going to feel comfortable teaching any of that. So you need to give them a little bit more credit that they are smarter than that.
And us as well, as a board. Go ahead, Danelle.
So I think you brought this up because mainly your interest was in the legal aspect of it. We do pay a lot to our attorney every year. You can see what it was 2 years ago. It's just a lot of money in there. And one of their benefits is free legal counsel, which, John, I think you mentioned something about. We don't know how much we're going to get of it, how fast it's going to take, et cetera, because these are pro bono lawyers, as far as I know. From that aspect, I think it's kind of a no-brainer that we'd pay for this membership fee to get free legal advice. And that's the only one reason that I think it would be okay to try it out for a year. The other stuff, the journals, I toss in the trash can. I would not have time to, I don't have time, or most of you work, I only work part-time. You don't have time to attend these seminars in the middle of the day, plus they cost more money. So that base fee is just a membership fee. I was looking at one of them, because we do get emails from them, and one was like something for new Board of Ed members. It was like $30 for members and $60 for non-members. I was like, first of all, I'm not paying an extra fee. Second of all, who has time to attend this during the day? So there's all these offerings that they have, but I honestly don't think we'd use 95% of them. The only thing we'd use it for is the legal help. And if that's the only thing they have, well, $2,500 or $2,700, again, is little compared to what we've been paying. But I don't want to throw out that we still would be using our attorney, I assume, and that there are potentially other options for attorneys besides Shipman and Goodwin and CABE. I'm not so concerned about the supposed doctrine that CABE has, because we have to do what the state says anyway. So I'm really in the middle. I just don't know what I'm going to vote to this minute, to this point, but I totally have been weighing in and out from the public comments, from things that we have heard, from things that I've read, from things that I see in my email. But I completely understand your reasoning to think about it to begin with. And we haven't been with CABE since I've been on the board, which has only been 2 years. But what's our history before that? How much did the board use it when we had it? We were not members when we used it for our superintendent search, but we still used their services, and we had to pay a fee. But I'm just curious, what's the board's history with it? How much was it used when we had it, when we were a member? Does anybody know?
Our longest standing board member doesn't remember. So, because it hasn't been,
right.
We've not been members since, so we've not done it before. Like you said, I think my reason for looking into it yet again was exactly that. It's going to be a huge savings, huge. I don't think people really understand how much of our money goes to legal. Don't think so. So if we could have somebody to bounce, to bounce things off of at no fee, an attorney right there via email, it's going to, free of charge here, then I think that would be useful. Alexis?
I'm going to echo everyone. We are a board of 9, so we make those decisions together. I think, our admin team has a lot of common sense. We have a great curriculum subcommittee. We have a policy subcommittee, which everyone's very communicative. So we get a lot of information weekly from our superintendent. The legal fees, we try it out. It's $2,700. We try it out. We can all make a decision collectively after we've seen what they have to offer at that point in time. So I'm in favor of the 1 year.
Did we find out where the money was coming from?
Yeah, there's a Board of Ed supply line, which is $1,000. However, that's technically for supplies and stuff. We do have a central office admin membership dues and fees line, which is $7,125. I just went back for a few years to look at what's historically been charged there. I think it's really hard to look at it at this point because of the years of COVID, because maybe we paid for memberships that or we didn't pay for memberships that we didn't use because we didn't need them for conferences and things like that. But I also do know that a lot of those, the unions or the dues and the conferences have changed their fee structures because of allowing for online conferences and things like that. So we can be cognizant of it for sure in that line item, but it would better live in the admin dues and fees versus the supply line.
Danelle?
So along with those fees, if I were to want to participate at a workshop, would I be paying out of pocket, or would that come from a Board of Ed budget?
So it's a central office admin budget. The only line item the Board of Ed has is a supply line. But we would certainly discuss that, and it would live in that central office admin dues and fees.
Okay.
It's specifically for conferences and things like this, memberships.
I think maybe if you were interested, maybe have a conversation with Andy to see, like if there was money there, for you to attend those type of things. I think that some things like new board member orientation, those type of things, again, we pay a lot of money for, might be worth it. Sorry. Maureen?
I remember the other day when we were talking about this, that someone said that when the union contract came up, they would rather talk without the
Attorneys?
Without the attorneys. So there's a savings right there. But the only big thing I saw, because I was going through the CABE toolkit, and one of their comments is about equity exists where there's no systemic disparities in academic outcomes based on race, ethnicity, gender, economic status, or zip code. And I've heard so much about racism these days that I wish people would just leave that word alone. But, it's right here in all their stuff. Of course, we have to put it in our policies too, but I think if we just stopped talking about it, we wouldn't have an issue.
Can't.
That's a conversation for, I don't think that has to do with our CABE membership unless you want to connect it.
Well, it's in there, in the toolkit we're supposed to use in order to decide what,
That's right. Interpret that in a million different ways. All right, we should vote on this.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the CABE membership for the 2022-23 year, please raise your hand. Ready, Maureen? Dawn? John? Alexis? Sarah? Nicole? All those opposed? Maureen? Matt? Bruce? All those abstaining? That motion passes. Okay, sorry about that. Action item number 5, act on the Board of Ed communication. We did receive some letters in the last Board of Education packet that was a little bit late, so we didn't get a chance to add that to the agenda, so we figured we would add it to the these, to this agenda. Andy, do you remember the two?
We had an IT tech, Kat Cremay, who accepted a position somewhere else, closer to home, better paying. We could meet with her, having a nice exit interview. She provided not only thoughtful reflections on how her position has changed and grown over the years, but also a lot of gratefulness for the opportunity to work in our district. I don't have a second.
Okay.
Motion to approve the resignations with our,
Regrets.
yes.
I second it.
Motion by Nicole, seconded by Danelle. Any discussion? Oh, thank you, thank you very much. We have Cynthia Pinnell, Catherine Creme, and Catherine Creme.
Cindy was a part-time secretary at the Lebanon Elementary School who just had her last day last week. She put forth a lot of great effort in that position. That is one of the positions that we are looking to move to full-time to try to better support that office. Cindy was grateful for the opportunity, and like I said, her last day was last week.
Thanks, Cindy. We have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, everybody. And at that, we will adjourn
That's a wrap.
at 5:20. Thank you very much.
For the next agenda, we talk about Juneteenth.